Paper was like gold in medieval times.
Oh, not tobacco, sugar.
That everything we thought we knew about the world might turn out to be completely wrong.
Hi, I'm Rachel Khoo, and this beautiful northern city is now my new home. But I, along with most Swedes, often escape to the tranquility of a little cabin in the countryside.
Look at that! It's huge!
Bit of a mouthful, that, isn't it? My Wallenburger of burgers. 2 waffles ready to go. It's not a pea soup without the mustard.
A cake worthy of a celebration, I think.
Exploring Sweden and all the culinary delights it has to offer will be the source of inspiration in my Swedish kitchen. Ugglarp Farm is located right by the coastline in southwestern Sweden. The produce grown on this farm has a reputation for being unique in flavour and appears on fine dining restaurant menus all over the country.
You're right by the sea here, aren't you?
Yeah, rather close, yeah.
Does that affect the way you have to grow the cabbages or the flavour of the cabbages?
The salty wind, actually, I have customers who really want to buy especially kale that grows very close to the sea because they told me that it tastes a little salt.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it picks up the salty air.
Yeah, I think so.
Delicious. Can we pick one of them?
That one, maybe.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Perfect. We'll pop that in the basket. No. So you've got pointy cabbage. What other types of cabbages do you have?
Here are broccoli, cauliflower, a lot of different kind of kale,
Yeah.
different colors. Yeah.
They sound so crunchy, the leaves.
Yeah.
Perfect. So pop that in there.
Cabbages, kale and root vegetables have always played a big role in Swedish cooking, and they are ingredients that the Swedes take for granted. But they can be used for so many good things.
Do you find there's one particular cabbage that is the most popular one in Sweden?
Black cabbage, svartkål.
Oh,
Svartkål.
black cabbage,
Like,
okay.
Yeah.
So in the UK you call it Cavallo Nero by the Italian name. Yeah, it's become very fashionable.
Yeah, very.
So you say the same fashion in Sweden, people
Yeah.
like enjoy
make
eating
chips
it.
out of it, fry them in oil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you make Cavallo Nero crisps,
crisp, yeah.
so they're slightly healthier.
Yeah.
Look at that colour. So this is the really dark kale, isn't it?
Yeah, and the purple one.
Beautiful.
Unlike myself, who doesn't fare well in cold weather, kale actually becomes a more vibrant red colour the colder it gets.
Let's head out. So this is curly kale.
Yeah, this is this curly kale, like this.
Yeah, you can eat like just this.
Yeah.
Super crunchy.
Yeah.
So where did your passion for like growing cabbages and different vegetables come from?
I actually started when I was only 6 years old. I remember I was growing peas. I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, it's growing quickly up, and it
Yeah.
was nice to look at.
They're
and-
pretty with the
Yeah, yeah.
flowers, aren't they? Should we go?
Yeah.
Sweden has an unspoken law called jantelagen. It's a social norm that says you should not brag about yourself. This can at times hinder progress, but it also teaches you to be humble and thankful for what you have. This is also true in Scandinavian food, taking simple products to make something special. The humble cabbage, a misunderstood vegetable. The best way to cook it, I think, is to cook it lightly. So, let's start. Cut this into quarters. I've got this fantastic pointy cabbage here, but you can go with any cabbage you like. I mean, cabbages come in all shapes and forms and sizes. Key to this recipe is some butter, and lots of it. Make your life easier by using soft butter. It won't work with butter straight out of the fridge. Right, on the tray they go.
If you don't have a barbecue or open fire, what you can do is just put the cabbage under the grill, same job. Over to the fire. Just have to watch out when you're cooking these because they can cook quite quickly. You want to make sure they're just charred a little bit. I'm going to let those cook and I make my vinaigrette now. Now the vinaigrette, it's nothing extraordinary. It's a simple mustard vinaigrette. I've got some sweet mustard here, some vinegar for the acidity, some oil, salt, very important. You want to make sure your cabbage is well seasoned. And then you just have to pretend you make cocktails. Give it a little shake. This is the easiest, messy-free version of making a vinaigrette. Okay, the vinaigrette's done. Got some hard-boiled eggs. I'm gonna peel. Just a finishing touch to my spring cabbage vinaigrette. Ready to plate up. I love cooking cabbage this way. It goes all crisp and sweet, slightly smoky, very delicious. Now, I always like to double check my vinaigrette, and the easiest way to do it is just to take a little leaf, dipping it in the salt, and having a little taste. Just check for the acidity or you need more salt, but that tastes pretty spot on to me. All you need to do at this point, give it a good drizzle. A little bit of hard-boiled egg.
Grating hard-boiled eggs is a little retro, but it's coming back into fashion.
Adds a little bit of creaminess. And then finishing touches, just some chives, a bit of freshness to cut through all the other different flavours. Sprinkle that on top. And that's all you need to do to make a cabbage tasty.
My cabbage vinaigrette is not unlike the classic French starter, asparagus mimosa, where asparagus is served with a tangy vinaigrette and boiled eggs. When thinking about Swedish food, you don't often think about tomatoes. But actually, it's very common to grow your own. When it comes to large-scale tomato farms, it is a different story. The weather is too cold and the winters are too long. But there is a place in southern Sweden where they manage to grow beautiful and great-tasting tomatoes in all kinds of varieties.
What's the growing season for tomatoes?
We actually started tomato growing in February, week 7, and then we get out the first tomatoes in April, middle of April, and then we are going to the end of October.
I'm after some tomatoes, which would be good for salad, but I think we're doing well, but maybe a few other colours?
We're going to go to the next block. I think there is some other very beautiful tomatoes.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah.
How many varieties do you have of tomatoes?
83.
83?
Yeah.
The colour, size and variety of each tomato will impact the flavour. From green tomatoes with a tart floral flavour to the deep red coloured ones that are fruity and sweet.
What kind of tomatoes are these?
This is Juanita.
Okay.
And, that is one of my favourites because there's a lot of taste in that one. So
All right. So what? Can I pick? I'll go for the red ones?
Yes,
here.
go for the red ones.
And is there a particular way you pick them?
We pick them always from upstairs because you see the red one is there and then the colour goes down and you get greener and greener. So I always pick the first one up here.
Yeah. All right, I might try one. Is that okay?
Of course. It's okay.
Sweet.
Sweet. Lovely. Tasty.
Yeah, delicious.
So now you come into my next block.
Ah, all right. You could just go around just eating tomatoes.
I do that every day.
I have a basket full, enough for my salad. Fantastic.
I hope so.
Thank
Lovely.
you very much.
Thank you.
I've just got one more stop to make to pick up a vital bit of equipment. Webbshult has made cast iron cookware since 1906. The work is hard, and visiting the factory is like a door into how factory work was like at the turn of the last century. I'm here to discover what makes an authentic cast iron pan so durable and to find a traditional Swedish waffle pan.
So this tradition of making cast iron pans in this region is quite long, isn't it?
Yeah, 112 years.
112 years?
Yeah.
And what do you love about cast iron pans?
They last forever. They can take high temperatures. Many people in Sweden inherit cast iron from their parents.
So it's something which is passed on through the families.
Exactly.
But I mean, I love cooking with cast iron because it really retains the heat.
It does, yeah.
So it's great for when you're doing like stews. And this one you can actually pop in the oven.
Yeah, you can.
Which is great. It's super useful when you want to start off on the hob and then finish it off in the oven. And then I love this one. This is so Swedish, no?
It is. Swedish classic. Waffle iron.
Okay, well, it sounds perfect for my cooking.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be happy cooking with these back in my studio.
Yeah.
Now I'm all set to make my next dish.
When it came to trying my first Swedish waffle, it was love at first bite. My Swedish waffles, however, have a little twist on them with a butternut squash. It's not what you normally put in a recipe, but it tastes delicious and it gives a lovely colour too. Oh, need to struggle with chopping this in half. I'm just going to scoop out the seeds. So you only need half of the butternut squash, and that's going to go in the oven. You want to roast it until it's tender.
Place the squash into a preheated oven at 180 degrees fan. It should take roughly 45 to 50 minutes.
So you know when the butternut squash is done, it looks cooked, and it is basically tender, soft. I'm just going to scoop out the flesh and pop it in my bowl. It's all mushy. You want it like a puree, no big lumps, basically. Before I forget, I'm going to melt my butter. Now, with my butternut squash, I'm going to add all my wet ingredients. I have my milk. It's going to go in. My buttermilk. This is where it's handy to have a really big bowl to make it in. Otherwise, you make a mess. And then 2 eggs. All right, melted butter. I'm going to add almost all of it. I need to save a little bit for my waffle pan. Mix that in. Right, wet ingredients done. Now it's just about mixing the dry ingredients together. Okay, so just some plain flour, nothing fancy. Bit of baking powder, just help the waffles rise. Dusting of cinnamon, and a generous pinch of salt. I'll just give that a little mix. And then we just combine everything together. Don't want to over-mix the batter, because if you over-mix it, then you develop the gluten, and then you end up with rubbery waffles. And who wants rubbery waffles? Right, I'm gonna let this rest for about 20 minutes or so, just so the batter settles and makes for a better waffle. So, while that's resting, I'm gonna make a few toppings. I'm gonna use these amazing tomatoes I picked up. I always think it's best to work with seasonal ingredients. It means you don't have to do so much work in the kitchen. When they're in season, tasty, juicy, there's really not much to do. You let the ingredients do the work for you. A bit of salt, a good glug of olive oil, some parsley too. And we'll just let that sit until we need them. I'm just going to put the waffle iron on the fire so it heats up. While the waffle iron is heating up, I'm going to do a sweet topping, which is literally going to be some whipped cream with cloudberry jam. Now, the trick to whipping cream is make sure your cream's really cold and have a cold bowl too. This is where I get my daily workout.
Cream contains tiny globules of fat, which are solid when the cream is cold, and these support the air bubbles, resulting in a fluffier and airier cream.
You just want some soft peaks, nothing too stiff, otherwise you'll be making butter. I'm gonna pop that back in the fridge until I need it. And now I can make some waffles. A little bit of butter. So it's important to butter your waffle iron. Plenty of butter.
If you don't have a waffle iron, you could use the same batter to make small round pancakes in a frying pan.
And wait for the magic to happen. Fingers crossed. Yeah, it's not looking bad. You can see the heat's a bit uneven because it's a bit darker on the backside. A couple more minutes and it should be done. This is where you can't be impatient, because if you're impatient, what happens is the waffle is still sticking in the pan. It's done when it doesn't stick anymore. Oh, I think this waffle's done. This is where the factory line begins. Grease up again. Okay, 2 waffles ready to go. You can really top them with anything you fancy. That's the joy of it. Sweet, savoury, or whatever you find in the fridge. A little fridge forage is always good. Crispy bacon, can't go wrong with that. Just to finish off, a touch of parsley. There you go. Waffle 1. For the sweet one, a generous cloud of whipped cream. And a little bit of cloudberry jam.
Cloudberry jam is made from a tart aromatic berry which looks similar to a small yellow raspberry. It's mainly found in the Swedish marshlands. If you can't get hold of cloudberry jam, you can easily replace it with raspberry or any jam you prefer.
And there you have it, butternut squash waffles with 2 little toppings. Parsnips in a cake might be rather unusual, but they'll make a delicious addition to my praline and parsnip cake, adding a natural sweetness and a subtle nuttiness. I'm going to top and tail my parsnips, peel off the tough skin.
Finely grating the parsnips help them dissolve into the cake batter.
I'm going to mix together my dry ingredients. Now I'm using wholemeal flour. It's not what you normally use for baking, but I actually like that nutty flavour.
And some ground powdered hazelnuts.
Pinch of salt, a little bit of cinnamon, and some baking powder. Just want to mix all your dry ingredients together. Don't want any lumps of baking powder in your mixture. Parsnip goes in, mix that all together. I'm now going to whisk up some eggs and sugar. And then you just want to whisk it until it's light and fluffy. Add some oil.
Vegetable oil or any non-flavoured oil.
Add your dry ingredients and then fold it in gently. Try not to over mix, otherwise you'll beat all the air out. In it goes in the cake tin.
Put the cake in a preheated oven at 180 degrees fan.
For about half an hour. You know the cake is done when you can gently press it and it bounces back. Cake looks perfect. While the cake cools, I'm going to make my praline. You want to make sure your hazelnuts are blanched without the skin, because the skin will add a bitterness to your praline otherwise. They're toasting up nicely. You can see they're getting a little bit of colour and they're releasing the lovely oils, and it smells good too. I'm going to put them on a tray to cool down. For the caramel, you need some caster sugar and then sprinkle it into the pan in an even layer. The easiest way to make caramel is to do it in a light coloured pan because you can see the colour of the sugar. When you're making caramel, there are 2 important things. Don't leave the caramel unattended, and then also you don't want to stir it. So if you stir caramel, then you agitate the sugar crystals and that will make your caramel lump up. All right, I'm going to turn it off the heat now because it will continue to cook. Pop in your hazelnuts. And work quickly here because the caramel cools down really quickly. While this is cooling, I'm going to make a simple cream cheese frosting. Soft butter, sugar, and cream cheese. Once the caramel and the hazelnuts have cooled down, you can blitz it up into a coarse kind of powder. I quite like it when it's kind of a mixture of textures. Time to assemble the cake. I'm going to cut the cake in half. Tiny bit of icing on the bottom of the plate just to stick the cake down. Cake top, and then the rest of the icing. And then a little bit of icing on the sides, just enough to make the praline stick. So just take a handful and sprinkle it on the side. I'm going to do a little Swedish nature landscape with my cake. Little tree in the background. And a final dusting of icing sugar. Okay, it's a little bit cheesy, but who doesn't love a little bit of cheese? My praline parsnip cake.
I really get to see Sweden from its best side, travelling around and visiting wonderful farmers and passionate entrepreneurs who inspire new ways of cooking traditional Swedish dishes.